Now we are going to break through the hype around the term innovation. Our next speaker will explain how innovation has become part of Mortenson's culture. After his presentation, I will join him for a moderated discussion and to take your questions. So please be sure to submit them under the Q&A tab on your screen. Now, please join me in welcoming the Senior Director of Innovation at Mortenson, Ricardo Kahn.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and looking forward to sharing a little bit about our story around innovation. The key thing I want to state right now is innovation is about people, and it's about people solving problems that we face. And I think the culture discussion is really stems from that point. But before we get started, I want to talk about some fun facts about myself. Because one of the things that we've learned from an innovation culture is until we get to know the person at a deeper level, that's when conversations really happen and encourage, ideation. So I was born in Trinidad. I grew up in New York City in Brooklyn, in an area that was pretty poor, but now it's been gentrified and I can't even afford to live there. So my dad was a mechanical contractor in New York. So I grew up in the construction industry. I'm a father of two younger kids. I love to travel, lived in 9 states through work. I'm a total nerd, like a lot of you have known me over the years. I'm a surfer who now lives in Minnesota, which doesn't really work out, but a lot of our trips end up going to surf spots around the world. So I'm a self-taught ukulele player, which is kind of what you see in the background here. I've been at Mortenson for 15 years. I have about 30 years of professional experience. And the reality is this is my 3rd career. I started in architecture. I moved into computer graphics and I went back to construction, started in VDC and now are leading our company in innovation. So let's get started. The agenda today is really 3 parts. Let's talk about the introduction and the problem we're trying to solve. Let's move into our innovators program and the key high-level kind of functions that it plays, and then talk about measurements and talk about planning the work and working the plan. So you'll hear those topics kind of repeat throughout the presentation. So first, I'm going to start talking about Mortenson. We're a family-owned organization for 66 years. We're in the top 20 ENR contractors. We have about 7,500 team members. More than half of that are craft for our self-perform and EPC businesses. And our volume of work is around $5.1 billion. Obviously, things are in an interesting position in the economy due to COVID and other things, but we're holding strong. And we're builders at heart. We're building inspiring spaces, reliable infrastructure. And you think about infrastructure today and the increasing demand of data connectivity due to virtual work environments. So, a lot of our mega projects around data centers have increased or improved over the last couple of years in terms of wins and collaboration. We're building in productive environments and clean energy. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't know about Mortenson is that about 40% of our volume of work comes from energy work, from being the number 1 wind builder, number 2 solar builder, power delivery, high voltage transmission, and working with microgrids and the consumption of energy. So it's pretty interesting how diversified our market is. And this kind of leads us into innovation. And I have to say that it's really critical for organizations to have innovation as part of their strategic objectives. It's part of the business case. It's part of our long-term strategy. And, to address these really quick, exceptional teams is around building capabilities of our people. When we lead into a culture, if we're not a learning culture, a learning organization, that we will never reach our full potential. Number 2, diversified markets. A lot of people don't realize, but Mortenson spins out a new business almost every year to meet the needs of our future and to prepare our business for the future. As the economy turns down from a commercial and capital project standpoint, the energy side is booming. So the diversification of our business is directly related to business model innovation, which I spent a lot of time in. And then transformational innovations is aspirational goals to changing how we are going to work in a 5 to 10 year time horizon. So that's creating new businesses around automation, industrialized construction, engineering services, creating this all-in integration opportunity, supporting the integration of the supply chain, and really transforming the way we will work in the future. I like to start off with a problem, and I love this quote. We spend so much time kind of planning our work from a project perspective, and then we execute it. Well, if we're going to focus on innovation, we really need to truly understand the problem from the macro level down to the line of sight, down to the team member. And if we spend more time focusing on that problem, the ideas and the solutions are actually the easy part. Ideation is the easy part. Our people are smart, they come up with great ideas, but understanding the problem that we're trying to solve, not a point solution problem, but a process problem and a people problem, we can really make forward movement in the innovation culture. So let's talk about some of the challenges over the next decade, right? None of this is new to any of you, right? We're looking at a massive urban growth. The urbanization, statistics by 2050 are pretty amazing. We're seeing, cities having massive shortage residential homes and facilities for the workforce. We're seeing a declining productivity or flatline productivity since the 1960s, and we're seeing a massive need for investment in our industry, which is happening right now. Manufacturing, the mega trend is industrialized construction, DFMA, or design for manufacturing and assembly. And the promise is if we can start looking at manufacturing and pull that into our business, we will see a dramatic boost in operational improvements and efficiencies. And I know that is not a new topic with a lot of the large firms in the nation. But what we're seeing and what we've been seeing over the last 10 years is a decline in design quality. Now, this is not a stab to our design partners. This is a challenge based on buildings becoming more complex. Owners are requiring buildings faster to generate revenue for their business. This is because our budgets are being tightened and we are lacking the workforce. All of this plays into the poor design quality. What happens in a lot of our GMP work and negotiated contracts, design build, is that the design is at schematic or even design development before we're providing a guaranteed maximum price. So that puts both parties at tremendous risk. And the design team, working closely with the construction team, we're solving challenges way after we should have made decisions on. So that is all playing into this degradation of design, which impacts downstream workflows. So the industry today, all of this stuff we're talking about, quickly, it's around, we are ripe for disruption. Again, that's not a new trend that's happening, but I needed to reiterate that. We're also recognizing the world is rapidly changing. We're following the megatrends, the shortage of craft labor, urbanization, the electrification of everything. All of these technologies that all interrelate through a data perspective. How do we better engage our communities? This industrialized construction movement, innovative materials that we're following a few of them, and as they become ubiquitous in our environment, it's going to redefine how we work. It's going to redefine materials, redefine products that we install and assemble. So all of those things are really driving innovation within our organization. It's not testing technology, it's trying to identify the future path on how we are going to work and building a plan to execute that over time. It's about redefining what's possible. We like to say we don't compete with our peers. We compete with what is possible. And I think, it's great coming to ENR to see a lot of my friends, peers in the industry from DPR, McCarthy, Clark, all these companies that we either joint venture with or we're close members through the SIFE organization, like Swinnerton and things like that. So we're really excited to be on this journey with you. I think, as you all know, the AEC industry is attracting a tremendous amount of new investments. And a lot of the companies that are our peers, they all have VC wings or partnerships with VC companies. The company we're kind of involved with as a limited partner is really focused on three avenues: construction tech, real estate tech, and smart city tech. And the confluence of those investments or technology companies is really the sweet spot that we're targeting from an innovation perspective. So we are in the fourth industrial revolution. With each revolution, there was new jobs created, new technologies that improve and basically revolutionize the way we performed work in multiple industries. And now we are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. And all these, cyber systems and internet and data connectivity, ubiquitous democratization of IT, all of those things play a role. But the megatrends are moving from construction, assembly to manufacturing and design for fabrication, manufacturing and assembly. So we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. I think that's the challenge in the construction industry, right? We've been building buildings the same for decades. Our tools have gotten better. The process has gotten somewhat better, but the legal system, the entire system is broken. And we need to help redefine that as organizations within the industry. And we need to collaborate to solve that. So we're going to get into innovation. We like to say innovation is an outcome and people innovate. And we don't want to steer away from that. We need to stay focused on that. And we're going to be talking about culture a little bit in our kind of high-level program, the Innovators program. I love this quote about culture. It starts with a change in behavior that leads to a change in attitude that leads to a change in culture. It is a long-term journey. It is a marathon, not a race to the finish. It's something that needs to be planned strategically and implemented over time to understand where we are going and what we need to do now to prepare ourselves for the future.
Innovation for us is having a culture where everybody is willing to try new things, to challenge the status quo, to think about how we could do things better and differently as an organization.
Innovation has many outcomes, from the small incremental improvements to our existing process. When we apply scale to that, we can see a 10-time multiplier of value creation, or creating a brand new solution to a business problem, or a new business model, and a new service offering that we provide to our customers.
The key when we're looking at innovation is to think about the problem we're trying to solve before we just go out to try to innovate.
Technology may play a role in the execution of innovation, but the reality is people innovate, and the outcome is innovation.
I think our culture has always been one of innovation, and I think back in the early days of the IDAT group, and there was some hints of this future of augmented reality or virtual reality. And we had a group of team members that worked with a defense contractor and got some early tech, and were projecting augmented reality. And we were trying to see, could you actually take a 3D model and project it into a space? That was over a dozen years ago. I mean, it didn't work. We tried, we failed, it wasn't ready, but then we were more prepared for the future that we have today.
The Innovation Center is a space to inspire our team members, to engage them in a new way, and to partner both internally and externally to drive innovation to the next level at Mortenson.
Having the Innovation Center right at the front door is kind of cool. So you walk in and you see that that's part of who we are as a company right at the entrance.
We are developing the support structure to support our team members in the innovation process.
We're seeing now this confluence of new technologies emerging with ubiquitous connectivity, data, virtual reality, AR. It's this idea of this democratization of IT. So everybody's got high-speed connectivity at their fingertips, and then you have all this computational power happening around us. There's never going to be a time with faster change than we're experiencing today, and we are in the fourth industrial revolution.
So the Mortenson Innovators Program, we formalized the program in 2018. And the reason why we formalized the Innovator Program, because we realized there was a tremendous amount of innovation happening on project teams and in our businesses and across the company, our enterprise. And we needed a formal process that created a line of sight from the team member to the project, to the business unit, to the company, and then to the industry. And our program encapsulates all of those, that key line of sight. So there's three key components: to inspire, to engage, and to partner. And I'll go over those with some examples. So behavior never lies. The first objective is really around inspiring our peoples and teams. It's about this concept of yes and, not yes but or no. I mean, I've heard a lot of no's in my entire career because my job is to push the envelope. And no means not yet to me. So I'm persistent, I'm resilient. Resiliency is the most important thing in innovation. But when we think about that, building capabilities of our people, recognizing our team members for the efforts they perform to support lean and innovation in our business, sharing both internally and externally, like I'm doing right now, the stories of innovation that's really helping us drive our business to meet our strategic objectives and prepare ourselves for the future. My key role is around educating to innovate, building that process that can be taken by any team member to activate their ideas, to identify, prioritize their problems, and provide a resource process for them to execute. And the team member's role is really to learn and educate others. That's how we build the culture. So one of the examples, educate to innovate. Education and learning is a core principle at Mortenson. We have a program called Lead Blue, which is a leadership training for every single team member in the organization. We see every team member as a leader. And there's three principles: do the right thing, we before me, and this is where innovation comes in. Really, it's about inspire what's possible. And as you can see, the snapshot here is really around learning and development for our team members to understand our mission behind innovation, understand how every team member can participate in the process, defining the process, understanding the resourcing and funding mechanism, and understanding activities that they can perform, leveraging templates or whatnot to really execute innovation. And the most important thing is really learning how to plan and then execute innovation over time. So this is what our Lead Blue program is really about. It's really building capabilities of our talent. So, like many firms, a lot of our peers, we have these annual lean and innovation summits, internal events. And this is pre-COVID, where we bring like 300 people in from around the company to really go through learning workshops and rapid prototyping opportunities and sharing lessons learned. Well, we had to make a massive pivot this year. And this is part of the innovation story as well. It's, you have to know when to pivot. When something is not working, you have to pivot. And, in March, we realized that our innovation center and our annual lean and innovation summits were not going to happen for the next year, or maybe next year either. So we pivoted and created this interactive video podcast that we call Blue Box Talks. And the Blue Box is our innovation center. And what that is, commitment from top leadership down to business leaders, down to project teams and team members, a way to share stories around projects, stories around investments in innovation, stories around incremental improvements that's impacting our business. And what we're doing is making it active. We have 700 attendees on average every month that are attending these. And this is all the way from senior leadership down to project team members, field engineers, and craft. So I think what's really important to note here, it's about engaging them in a new way. It's about having them listen to the stories that we're telling and creating an action plan. It's interactive. It's not meant to just be a commercial. It's meant to be a way to engage our people in a new way, leveraging video as a media source. So attitude is everything. And once you inspire and educate your people, it's really around creating a structure for innovation, which starts with leadership commitment. I like to say that innovation is a top-down support mechanism, while lean is a bottom-up support mechanism. And without the commitment of leadership and middle management, your innovation process will break down. So I do want to address that, and I'll hopefully take questions on that. Building a process to take action on ideas. Now, taking action on ideas really stem from which prioritized problems that the business has identified, whether it's a project challenge, a customer-driven challenge, a business challenge, a market type. We need to prioritize those before we start ideating, because we have so many people with so many great ideas, but what we fail to do overall as an industry is really prioritize the problems and then attack those problems in a very planned way. We talk about multi-sourcing innovation. It's not, the current term or the trending term is it's crowdsourcing. But multi-sourcing innovation is not just internal to Mortenson. It's not just asking team members, help solve this problem or, submit an idea. It's around really finding partnerships internally and externally to be part of that innovation process, part of the structure. And our team members' responsibility is really to participate and facilitate this process. So some examples of structure of innovation, having like a method in which you can engage an individual team member, a project, customer, a business is really important. It's interesting, we talk a lot to our peers, our joint venture partners. And I remember calling up DPR a couple of years ago and saying, hey, what innovation platform are you guys working on? And, we ended up investing in the same exact one. And what it's done for us, it's really integrated our Grow and Expand pipeline, which is a new business offering pipeline that allows us to develop a new business almost every year. It's about, helping team members get involved in solving key problems that our team members or our projects are facing or our business is facing. And it's also, providing a key process and understanding that process at each stage. So spending time developing that is critical to enable innovation. A couple of examples. I do want to address technology. I was involved in, I participated in a lot of the sessions at ENR, and there was a heavy focus on technology. And what I wanted to share was the structure for innovation, the problems we're trying to identify and solve are all over the place, right? And you can see some of these innovation challenge finalists, a hydraulic gondola dumper that directly impacts safety. We saw in 2018 and 19, there were more injuries increasing due to the team members, dumping gondolas into a dumper. So we partnered with an external company to develop an automated solution and trying to scale that across our business. That's the type of innovation that we're looking at. Yes, there's some things like RFID equipment inventory. It's an incremental improvement, but looking at like the right height stair pan float. This is something created by our craft team to dramatically improve the efficiency of concrete pouring in stair pans. So there's a lot of solutions that our team members are coming up with based on the prioritized problems. And as you can see, the innovation next steps is really around providing incentives, building teams and resource allocation to help convert ideas into real solutions. Yes, there's, every operating group in our business, runs these challenges. They could be project level challenges, company level, or customer driven challenges. And, as an operating group, like for instance, here in Milwaukee, they've defined their incentive program. They define how they want the process to work. And then we in the innovation team help them execute on that plan. So in our wind business, we took a different approach. In 2016 and 17, that wind business basically said, look, our production tax credits are going to be expiring in 2021, now 2024. And our business, we're going to hit a cliff. And if we don't transform the way we do work in our wind business, we're going to lose our competitive edge. So they ran a year-long innovation challenge, and there was 4 ideas that bubbled up to the top. And I'll talk a little bit and share some examples of one of those ideas. But, starting in 2018, going to 2019, we engaged over 228 team members on this challenge. We ended up with 4 innovation teams that working on 4 separate solutions that really drive change in how we deal with our EPC energy businesses. We had 76 participants. There were 76 people actively engaged in developing those ideas into prototypes and solutions. We also had about 69 ideas that were boiled down to 4. So not every idea is going to make it past. And we have to be really disciplined and hold accountability toward that. But you can see the projected impact, direct impact to our business. So I'm going to show a video of just one of those ideas and how it played out over a short period of time.
Jess was experiencing major delays on his project because his rebar supplier cannot produce or deliver foundations on time.
Here in the spiderweb foundation design, what we've done is taken away the circular bars and replaced them with octagonal circumferential bars. We relieve the congestion at the anchor bolt cage, we decrease required concrete, and we are greatly streamlining the supply chain.
The way this installs is very similar to the circular radial. And I actually think as far as installation, there are some points about this that make it easier than the radial.
I would be willing to put my signature and stamp on that for a project starting tomorrow. I'm confident that this is a rock solid foundation design.
Seems very logical. Good job.
I'm here with Charles Dana and Maddie Norgard, and we are looking at a real-life spiderweb foundation. So just 6 short months ago, you guys were presenting the spiderweb concept to SLT at our Shark Tank Innovation Challenge. How do you feel about actually seeing this in real life?
I'm super excited. I think it's beautiful. It's a nice, clean installation. It's certainly bigger than I expected, and it's very solid to walk on compared to some of the octagonal foundations I walked on. This is nice and stiff and solid. Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
This is really exciting to see that Charles's idea really came to life in such a short amount of time, and that hopefully it's going to be a solution for more of our projects going forward.
Great job, team. Can't wait to see this roll out even further.
Right on.
High five.
This is the third leg of our Innovators program. It's really about connecting ideas with capabilities. It's about tackling the big problems together. It's about both partnership between an academic world and a professional world. Almost every one of our regional offices has close ties to a local university or research facility, and that is what's been a really amazing differentiator for us. So we've been involved in the SciFi community from Stanford for the last 20 years and been performing research with a lot of our peers, including Google and Walt Disney and DPR and Swinnerton and Skanska and Turner. And it's amazing because like-minded people are focused on the same problems. And I can't stress how important this is in terms of focusing on innovation. We do have an R&D wing in our business, and that's through these academic partnerships. And it's interesting, we heard about Alice a couple of minutes ago. I met Renee back in 2010 or 2011 while he was a PhD student at Stanford, and he talked to me about this thing that he had, this big idea, this point of departure. And I remember like every year learning from him, and finally in 2015 we were one of the first general contractors to test his solution to really redefine how we attack planning and scheduling in our business. So I think all of those things are really important to really deliver innovation. And this is a requirement. This is not it's nice to have. If you don't have key partnerships, you heard that with Swinnerton just before, but this is really important. And if we don't do this as an industry, we are not going to solve the problems that we're facing. So as an example, we've presented at ENR in the last couple of years around the partnerships with Built Robotics. But this is just one example. And I want to talk about the problem that we are trying to solve. So we're digging round holes in the middle of nowhere. Very low dexterity work for an operator, for a skilled operator. So you can see here we have a dozer, we have a skid steer, we have an excavator, there's a compactor. Those are the pieces of equipment that help us, dig the hole, move the earth, and grade it. Now the challenge that we are facing is the urban context, the metro areas are booming. So like these skilled operators don't want to leave. They don't want to go to these remote places, hours and hours away from their family, staying in like these little hotels or man camps for that matter. So we're trying to find new ways of how are we going to dig round holes in the middle of nowhere with the lack of resources, the lack of skilled labor, and the fact that these are low dexterity activities. Why couldn't we leverage the skilled operator to do more important tasks, more tasks that leverages the power of the human brain? And what if we can work 24 hours a day while humans work 6 to 8 hour shift, and then the machines take over at night. I'm not talking about urban projects here. I'm talking about energy projects. I'm talking about remote projects, and we cannot get the skilled labor to those rural areas. So this is a video that we work with Built Robotics on. The project is, a number of our Mortenson wind projects. The one thing I wanted to address before the video is that when we started this partnership back in 2017 or 16, where we met Built Robotics, and we started to understand where this is going, we ran into a proof of concept in our solar business because we had, trucks and lots of people moving material from the delivery zone throughout a multiple mile solar project. So quickly we said, if we can automate the process of, picking up that material and delivering it to the zones that we have our craft in automatically, we reduce, the amount of potential incidences we have with drivers with no roads in these rural environments. We have, less drivers, and having those people, repurposed for more valuable activities. And we started with that process, and it was proven a success. It was a deviation from Built Robotics' roadmap. So what we did was we hired them as a contractor to really focus in on our wind business and our civil business. And what that has come to was our first excavator autonomous experiment was 68 hours to dig a hole. Well, that's not good, obviously. But over 7 projects, we were able to take 68 hours and bring it down below 10. So we helped teach the algorithms, the machine learning AI, to understand the requirements, the constraints, the things that we need to perform from a safety and quality perspective and productivity perspective to be able to meet the productivity of a skilled operator. And we started with the excavator, and then we worked with a bulldozer, autonomous bulldozer, an excavator, and a compactor. And all 3 of those units were working in unison to dig the hole, move the earth, and grade. And that is the power of what we're trying to do. Our future is around automation of construction. That was one of our major initiatives in our business. And this is an example of our journey toward that future state. We're not rolling this stuff out next year or the year after, or maybe not in 5 years, but 10 years from now. So obviously this is a commercial, and these are our projects. You can see the type of excavation process that they're going through. It's a pretty basic round hole in the middle of nowhere, which doesn't take a super skilled operator to do that. However, leveraging these autonomous equipment in unison and building the knowledge, in the AI solutions are really going to revolutionize the way we approach operating equipment. Now, granted, yes, this is a big lofty goal, but this big lofty goal has expedited the fast follower mentality now in the industry. From Caterpillar to Komatsu to, all of these heavy equipment companies are now pushing ahead with autonomous or remote equipment. So again, being part of the pioneer process, being part of the thought leadership process is critical to build a plan to the future. And this is just one example of that. So another big problem that we're trying to solve in another partnership is directly with our customers. So it's pretty amazing as we work with Facebook and all these sophisticated customers, they are constantly challenging us. They're constantly putting requirements in that really forces us to innovate, to solve the problem. So, Kohler, our customer a couple of years ago said, our process is all busted in terms of submittal, and that's not a Mortenson issue, that's an industry issue. So David Mortenson came up to us and say, how might we redefine the submittal process? Now we engaged one of our teams, the Virtual Insights team out of Seattle, which is an advanced technology team that is focused on these prototypes to establish inspiration for what is possible. So this video is a video that shows the prototype and gives an idea of the type of problems we are trying to face with our innovation process.
Work has been progressing on the procurement improvement prototype. Phase 2 has been all about applying the concepts and work from Phase 1 to a real project and seeing what complexities develop. The Hilton Garden Inn Madison project was selected to be our test project, and we built out the 6 different guest room types in VR. Between the 6 rooms, there were 13 fixture assemblies with 38,880,000 possible unique configurations that had to be selected and confirmed for ordering. Once an assembly is selected, the report dashboard updates showing cost and lead time information for that assembly along with the tools for the entire project. When all items are confirmed, the ability to click order is unlocked. This exports a machine-readable bill of materials that can be sent to a purchasing system electronically. On Friday, August 16th, we met with the Hilton Garden Inn design team to demo the latest
people. It's about the leadership support structure to engage our people. And it's developing R&D partnerships, which are crucial to deliver on innovation. We're not software developers, we're not hardware developers, we're not equipment developers, so we need to partner to deliver. So let's talk about measurements and how we're measuring. A key measure, a key KPI in our innovation program is really around team member engagement. In our wind business, our energy business, they really do a great job in engaging craft and engaging our team members to understand the problems that we're facing from our customer's perspective, from an industry perspective, and from a project team perspective, on engaging them to solve the problems. So executive support. Without this, your innovation program is going to fail. You need the direct support from your CEO, our chairman, David Mortensen, our CEO, our executive vice president. These are the people, the entire senior leadership team is who is committed to transformational innovation in our business. You can see we have a massive innovation department. It's 2 people. My job is not to generate innovation. My job is to build culture. My job is to build capability and really to be a marketing and communications person. My focus is 5 to 10 years out, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So, this is the 70-20-10 rule. It's kind of our mantra. It's nothing new. It was an article from Harvard Business Review back in 2013, I believe, where it says like 70% of organizations spend their time on incremental improvements. That's all of our initiatives. That's all of our businesses within Mortensen. About 20% are focused on emerging and adjacent professional services or technologies or emerging solutions that are coming out in the market. And that's where our VDC teams and our emerging tech teams really are focused on. From an innovation standpoint, I'm focused on the 10% step change, which involves our grow and expand pipeline process, which is really around spitting out new businesses almost every year, applying long-term diversity strategies. It's about our ALD research, advanced leadership development research. We take a couple dozen emerging leaders out of our business every year and put them on a year-long research project that kind of feeds into our grow and expand pipeline, potential trends that's happening, how we might diversify, and then innovation. How do we create that process? How do we build a plan? How do we set a vision for the future and execute that plan? That's what it's about. It's not about testing technologies as point solutions. It's about identifying a long-term strategy and working toward that. So in terms of operationalizing innovation, we picked a distributed model. We started off with a central, headquarters service model, which is really around education, communication, building the process. We then kind of moved into a distributed model, which is really around allowing our businesses to take on those processes, and we provide support. We are the people who are providing connections. We are the people who are helping remove roadblocks. We are the people who are helping gain funding from the senior leadership team. And then as we scale these solutions, it's down to the team member. How do we ensure that the team member is able to take on innovation and move it forward? So that's all part of the process. Looking at our objectives in 2020 before the idea of COVID hit was really around understanding the engagement across our businesses. And, our innovation hub is really a committee in each one of our businesses that focus on innovation. So implementing our 2020 plan for distributed innovation across our businesses, we met that objective and we're moving forward. So having a plan and executing that plan is key. So this is an example. Yesterday I saw DPR share the one pager around innovation, and this is an example of our one pager. Now we have shifted from paper or these static documents to video to really help communicate that. But just one project where our customer asked us to, increase our productivity rate to install about 5,500 batteries in our storage facility. And, we were seeing, safety concerns, efficiency concerns, quality concerns. So we engaged our team members, 300 of our team members, to come up with ideas to streamline that process. And the project team, the craft workers, the project engineers, the PMs, the superintendents worked on this solution. And within 3 months, showed a 242% productivity improvement and a $54,000 direct dollar savings in labor and other supervisory costs. I say we're not a software builder, but WinBuilder in 2018 was born out of research at Stanford in 2014. So we entered into research with Stanford on multidisciplinary optimization, which is leveraging machine learning, generative design to really solve problems in an iterative way, similar to Alice, right? So what we did was we validated, if we can put in all the requirements to a project upfront, things that take knowledge from multiple people and take a process that takes a week or two, what if we can take that down to 1 hour, 2 hours through computational design? Well, we validated that during research, and in 2018, we rebuilt that process. We rebuilt the algorithms to provide a differentiating tool for our Win business. So within hours, we can get a design and show optimized road layout, road alignments, optimized location of wind turbines, optimized electrical distributions, optimized location of substations, and all that built into this generative design process. So that's the type of innovation that we are working on. So in terms of measurables, at the end of 2018, we ran 13 challenges. We engaged these amount of people. We generated these amount of ideas. We implemented these amount of ideas and their financial impacts. So, one of the things we didn't do well in our past was really communicate the impacts to these innovations happening at the project teams across the company. And now it's my job to help communicate that and share that and then scale it across our business. So lessons learned. I have 10 lessons learned. Innovation culture starts with leadership commitment and support. Communicate, communicate, communicate. I've become a marketing and salesperson around innovation internally. It's been a fun job. It's been a fun shift in terms of what I do. But I realize if you don't have a communication team backing you up, sharing innovation is really hard. Engage your legal and risk team early on for IP management. We've run into a lot of issues with academic IP, with professional organizations, with industry leading companies around IP. So that's something really important to address with your legal and risk teams. Identify potential gaps in your company that support the structure for innovation. We found a whole bunch, and we're still kind of remedying that process right now. But you got to remember, an innovation idea may impact multiple functions in a business. So you have to understand the line of sight of how that resource structure works. Develop a clear funding resource line of sight from the individual up to the company. It's pretty straight. External partnerships are critical to deliver innovation. You got to empower your people. It's not about training them. Training is what, somebody does to you. It's about education. It's about what you do to improve your knowledge. Innovation must start with a prioritized business problem for the process to work. It's not about generating ideas. It's not about testing point solutions. It's about understanding and prioritizing that problem. Innovation should not be equated with technology. Yes, technology is involved in many innovation ideas, but it's really process and people first. And finally, innovation is a marathon. It is not something that's going to happen overnight. And it's really important that we understand that and prepare for the long-term objective. So with that, I'd like to open it up for Q&A. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. And I know there's a lot of leaders on this program, and a lot of our peers are leaders. So we have to work together to really solve the industry problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick? I'm calling you Rick because I noticed that some of the people in the industry were calling you Rick in the chat box. We have time for a few quick questions, And I'm going to give the first one to ENR technology editor Jeff Rubenstone, who you probably know. And he wants to ask you about Mortenson's innovation program. He says seems to encourage employees to think about innovating processes rather than just finding new technologies. Do you think we get too distracted by new tech and miss out on process improvements?
Absolutely. I think there's, with the massive investments for VC into our space, resulted in a lot of noise, to be honest, and a lot of point solutions that solve part of the problem, not the entire process. And the challenge is the long-term strategies for these companies meet the problem we're trying to solve, like automating pay apps, rethinking the submittal process. And no one's really solving for that. So what we need to do first before we leverage the technology is understand the problems are people facing, how impactful those problems are to our business, and then prioritizing that to understand the process. What is the process and where is the gap in our process before we start to innovate? It's like spending 55 minutes on the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. So that's really where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good quote and a great photo, a great illustration of Albert. A couple of people, however, are asking about your actual tech solutions, and if you feel comfortable answering. Melinda Summerfield wondered what platform you use to manage your innovation program.
Bright Idea. We have a couple of peers in the industry, construction firms leveraging Bright Idea, and we all talk to one another, and including like DPR and a couple others. But it's the platform. I'm not about selling this platform. We're finding major gaps in the platform because we use Office 365 corporately. So we see some opportunities in Office 365 that we have right now, functionality in our Bright Idea platform. So we're not fully invested in that. We are participating to understand how it's going to support our process, but we're kind of a year-to-year basis on that.
Okay. And Aaron Kahn, I don't know if that's any relation, wanted to know what platform did you use to bring the Blue Box talk virtual? And what was the program introduction and scaling like?
Yeah, well, we had a scaling mechanism already built because the video wasn't a new media for us, but the interactive video podcast was a new process. So, we rolled out Teams in the beginning of COVID, Microsoft Teams. We found some bugs in that. We used Zoom for a little bit, and then Microsoft Teams actually improved. So we're using Microsoft Teams now, and it handles up to like 1,000 people. We haven't had more than 750 people attend, but it's really working well for us. And we pre-record some interviews. We have live Q&A. We have live kind of introductions, and then we have an interactive group huddle that is part of the process. So it's been a fun journey, and now we're like at a monthly production cycle, so it's pretty fun.
Very cool.